So today we're going to be talking about the Eng 4000 test review. The test review package is effectively a report about the testing that you did for your system. And you want to be able to demonstrate that the system meets the design requirements and that it is fit for intended purpose. As you do your testing, you may encounter some failures. When you encounter those failures, you either A, have to justify that they weren't critical to system performance, that B, that you were going to bypass them, or that you have a planned path to rectify the failure that occurred during the test. The test report could be a written document, it can be a video, or some other medium depending on the applicability to your project. When you're doing your testing, you need to consider the testing in terms of two different types of analyses. The first one is a verification, the second one is validation. When we're talking about verification, we're talking about an examination of the requirements for your project and the tests that go along with them. In many cases, you should be repeating those tests over and over again to make sure that your test doesn't give you anomalous results, that you want to then verify that you have met the requirements for your test. And if you have met the requirement, you have demonstrated that the requirement has been verified with respect to your system. If it turns out that you have not verified the requirement, then you should be asking yourself the question of whether or not that requirement matters. And then you go back to the questions that were just posed in the previous slide. If it turns out that you have decided that the requirement doesn't matter after the verification failed, or you have a verified test that verifies or meets the requirements, then basically what you want to then do is ask yourself and your team, does the design meet the intended use? If all of that works out, then you have a valid design. If it turns out that your design doesn't meet the intended use, then you want to perhaps examine some update that goes along with the requirements to see if some changes need to be done. When conducting the tests, you want to look at three different things. You want to look at the actual test. What was the procedure that was associated with that test? What tools did you use? Was the test itself realistic? Is it repeatable? And what are the limitations and constraints? From there, what you want to do is take a look at the results of the test. What happened during the test and what are the outcomes? And you want to be able to demonstrate the outcomes with respect to the tests in the form of charts and graphs and things along those lines. From there, you need to do an analysis and a discussion. Was the test the right test? Were the results successful? Did they meet the requirements? Why did they meet the requirements for your design? And from that point on, you want to see what are the next steps for your project. And you can frame it in terms of, if the test was good, but the result was bad, what's supposed to happen next? If the test was bad, what do you do next? And if the test was not conducted, or if the test itself was incomplete, then what is the next step that you need to engage in your project? There are two rubrics that will be used to assess your test review submission. The first one is an analysis of essential results of solutions and tests for validity. The next one is the communications piece, where we're looking to see that you've clearly presented information in professional charts and tables, graphs, diagrams, and you have a written document that brings all of that together, or a medium other than a written document, but that brings all of that stuff together. In the first case, you have the test result analysis, and here we are evaluating the quality of your tests, the understanding of your result, that is the analysis, and your team's self-assessment. Here, we're expecting that most people will meet expectations here, which means effectively that you have presented an adequate analysis of the results and that you have applied appropriate tests to examine validity of your design. You can go beyond that and exceed expectations, and there what you're doing is a critical analysis that has insight with respect to your testing and your requirements, and that you are really choosing the most effective test protocols to examine validity of your system. The second piece the rubric 2 is the communication of analysis piece. And here we're evaluating the quality of communications regarding the tests. We're examining your ability to express what you did and how you did it, and what you are doing in the inference component with respect to your results. We're not just looking for the quality of the plots, the charts, the tables, and the words, but the effectiveness of how that is conveyed. We're making sure that you have checked your grammar, that your plots are of good quality, you've gotten rid of pixelation and things like that, and that your video, if you have a video, is short, to the point, and doesn't ramble on for 60 minutes. Typically, a 5 to 10 minute video is the most effective thing you can do. For rubric 2, we're hoping that most people meet expectations. In that case, what we're looking to do is examine that you've got figures and tables that are legible, that they are convincing and consistent with accepted standards, all items are correctly labeled, and that you have a good connection between the visual elements of your document and the word or video component of your document as well, the explanation side of things. If you want to really exceed expectations, then you want to use a variety of effective graphical designs or devices, and that you are concise and effective in your communication. So you're taking that up another notch. And so those are the things that we're looking for in your test review submission. If you have any further questions, please feel free to ask us.